Welcome to the Flying Octopus podcast, offering a new perspective on Red Wings hockey, as well as all the important news from around the NHL. And now, here are your hosts, Tony Wolak, Devin Little, and Evan Sabrin.
Well, faced a little irony this weekend when we recorded last, George. It's kind of funny that the new Joker movie came out this weekend with Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga. And then, well, my wife said to me, she's like, well, it looks like the joke's on you, after I blatantly told her, like, oh, no, I got to call Georgia. We got to record again because the Red Wings just made a ton of moves while we were recording. So there's no way we can put that podcast out. So let's try this again, George. And I thank you for your patience in doing this. I know you texted me right away. You're like, oh man, they dropped some more news. We gotta go again.
Yep, we do. So let's go.
Yeah. So real quickly, guys, this is Flying Octopus episode 5. I'm your co-host Evan Sabrin. Tony and Devin are out on assignment, getting ready for the home opener on Thursday, and I am joined by the one and only great George Malik. George, before we get started, I'd like to remind everybody where to find us. We are on YouTube at the Flying Octopod. You can also find us on iTunes, Spotify. You can also join us on Twitter at that Flying Octopod, and that's the same thing for Threads as well. But George, yeah, let's get into it. We've wasted a bunch of time, and there's so much news that's broke in the last 48 hours that it's been absolutely crazy. First and foremost,
I've got my new depth chart. So I'm
thank
ready.
God. Yeah, because it's a little different than what we originally talked about.
Yeah.
Home openers Thursday. The roster cuts were announced. Justin Holl was waived. Austin Watson signed a two-way deal with the team. Marco Casper, for now, is down in Grand Rapids. Red Wings fans on social media are up in arms about this. George, now that the smoke is cleared, like, what are your takeaways from all these roster decisions? Because it's just kind of madness right now.
Okay. Number one, people are always pissed at Steve Yzerman and the Red Wings management at the start of the season, just like they were always pissed at Ken Holland at the beginning of the season. Pardon my scratchy voice today. I've got a bit of a cough, but I've taken some cough medicine, and maybe that's why I'm loopy. But long story short is that I think that Derek Lalonde wisely pointed out that this is the roster for the beginning of the season, and that as we said yesterday when we were talking, that this team is going to go through 15 forwards, 10 defensemen. It's definitely going to go through 3 goalies, possibly more, and we're talking by the end of November, beginning of December, when there are 10 games in October, 3 and 5 nights just to start. And then, there are 12 games in, I think 13 actually in November. We're going to be talking about 23 games, I think 20 games by American Thanksgiving. Injuries are going to happen. Guys are going to be, playing well, playing not so well. There are going to be, meritocracy call-ups where where players in Grand Rapids are going to be playing so well that they can't be left down there for so long. I think that this season the Red Wings are going to be a little less prone to bringing up Zach Aston Reese, the same guy, over and over and over again. Like last year that was the deal. It was always Zach Aston Reese coming up and down I-96. By my house, but I have a little juice stand out there on I-96, and I let the Red Wings players stop and have some lemonade. But the long story long is that this is the roster for the beginning of the season, and the season is going to be long, and there are going to be injuries. There are going to be players that underperform. There might be trades. I certainly hope that there will eventually be some trades, because I think that Moritz Seider needs somebody to spare him some of those matchup minutes. But the long story long is that this is the roster for now. Take a deep breath, everybody. Don't freak out too much. The Griffins play on Friday, and they're talking about Casper playing like 20 minutes a game, which he was not going to do in Detroit. Carter Mazer, Nate Danielson, Sebastian Kosa, William Wallinder, all of these guys in Grand Rapids are going to be playing big roles this season. And in the interim, you've got a Red Wings squad that looks to be very balanced. And I think that this year everybody's slotted in the right role, at least for now. So let's see what happens first before we freak out too much more.
Yeah, I mean, the narrative I'm seeing on Twitter, I'm basically seeing like two opinions. One, everyone's mad at the Iser plan and whether the youth movement's not coming and we're coming back with the same team. And that's not one I agree with at this moment. But at the same time, I do think Casper really earned a spot on this team. But at the same time, like you said, there's not a spot for him. And if Casper's not playing top six in a top six role, I do think it's more beneficial for him to be down in Grand Rapids and playing those top minutes, like you just mentioned. He's, I think he'll be one of the first call ups when injuries happen, and they will happen at some point. But talk to me a little bit about the role that he's going to play down there in Grand Rapids, because you also got to think about the future too of this team, the experience that he's going to be getting playing playing as much as he possibly can with Carter Mazur and Nate Danielson.
I think that, as you're saying, we're talking about somebody who's going to be playing an incredibly important role on the Griffins. The Griffins last year really insulated their young players with a lot of veteran signings, and this year there's more of an emphasis on player development, on giving players who are younger and are part of the Red Wings system as opposed to the Griffin system, a real chance to star, a real chance to take big responsibilities. And you look at somebody like Casper, you look at somebody like Carter Mazur. We're talking about players who are tremendously versatile. That was kind of the bummer about Casper, is because even though he definitely needs a top six role to absolutely excel in the NHL. He and Mazur are versatile enough that you can play those guys on the third line or even on the fourth line, and they can get some valuable learning experience. But there's nothing like what they're going to get in GR. They're going to be able to be difference makers. They're going to be able to be leaders at 20, 21 years of age, which is fantastic for them. And they're going to be playing in a league where the emphasis is on development, and the mistakes that they make as young players who are still learning how to play professional hockey aren't going to be magnified so much at the NHL level, where it's going to cost the team points. I hate to say that, but all young players make mistakes. That's how you learn. And regrettably, sometimes pucks end up in your net. And professional hockey in general is not a forgiving sport in that regard. But you look at somebody like Casper with his maturity, you look at somebody with like Mazur with his physicality, and even you look at somebody like Danielson, who's still a bit physically immature, but it still has all that skill and all that passion and all that self-confidence. You want them to be in the place where they're going to be given the opportunity to succeed as much as humanly possible. For now, that's Grand Rapids. In the near future, and I want to emphasize that it's the near future, we're probably talking about Detroit. But right now, it's going to be Grand Rapids.
One of the things that I kind of thought the other day, it concerns me maybe just a little, is that I think Marco Casper earned a spot on this team. I do think he did, but I do as well. I'm also for what's best for the development. But this is his, we got to remember too, he's only 20 years old. Yeah. But does it ever concern you that we could get into a situation like the current one that we were with Jonathan Berger? And I think Casper, obviously, his upside's way more important in the future of this organization than what Jonathan Berggren is. But do you think there's a part of Casper that could feel that neglect, that, hey, I did what I had to do to make this team, and yet I'm still down here? Is that something that the Red Wings management or organization will consider or be concerned about?
They will consider it. They will be concerned about it. They'll have Dan Cleary talking to him. I'm sure that Yzerman has talked to him. I'm sure that Coach Stallone has talked to him. And they've said to him, we're sorry that we didn't get you on the opening night roster, but keep your ass working, keep your nose to the grindstone. Don't do any stupid shit, and be a be a be who you are, because you have proven to us that you're very close to being NHL ready. You're an important part of our future, and if you go down with a positive attitude, you work your ass off, and you do good things, then your future is here sooner than later. I think that with Dan Cleary, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think that with Dan Cleary as the director of player development, the Red Wings have a very hands-on approach, where they do talk to their players. They check in with just about everybody at least once a month. Cleary will be going up and down I-96 to Grand Rapids on a very regular basis. The management will be going to Grand Rapids on a semi-regular basis. I'm sure that if Coach Lalone gets a weekend off or something, a point in the schedule where the Grand Rapids Griffins are at home and the Red Wings have a couple days off, he'll go up. They make sure to let these guys know that they're in the loop and that they're important and that they are the team's future.
Yeah, and the good thing about Casper is everything I've read about him and that we've seen about him and discussed is that this kid has a good attitude and a hard work ethic, an Yzerman type player. So that's one of the things that makes me feel a little better about the situation. I did want to transition to one other piece of news that they announced that we weren't sure about when we first recorded, and that's the status of Michael Niggard. Now, the Red Wings announced that he will be heading over to Skellefteå. I can never say it right, and I'm not going to try it. I'm not going to try it again. I'm not going to try it again.
Shell gas. Skellefteå.
Skellefteå. Yeah, and he will get the opportunity to play with ASP in a men's league. Obviously, the SHL is a premier league. So, what were your takeaways from that? Did you think there was really a chance that they would have kept him over here in Grand Rapids, or were you surprised that they decided to let him go back to Sweden? Because I think we both discussed and know that he did mention that he did want to play in Sweden.
According to, if you follow him on Twitter, Ice Hockey Gifts, there's a report in Noran, which is the newspaper for Skellefteå, and it sounds like it's behind a Swedish paywall, so it's really hard to get to. But it sounds like that when he was talking to Steve Yzerman, the Red Wings really wanted to bring him over and keep him in Grand Rapids. But Niggard and his agent were very adamant that they wanted him to go back to Skellefteå, play in the Swedish Men's League for a year before coming over. According to the report from Ice Hockey Gifts, Ice Hockey G on Twitter, things actually got a little tense because Steve wants him here, and he just wanted to, go closer to home, be near his family, and be in a situation where he's speaking his second language, not his third language, because we forget sometimes he's not Swedish, he's Norwegian, and he wanted to have that experience from going to the under 20 league where he was playing with Mora IK last season to transitioning to playing in a real men's league and playing on that 100-foot wide rink before he comes over here and really focuses on honing that power forwards game. I think that he'll be fine. I think we've talked about this. I think that his path to the NHL might have been a little quicker if he came over to North America right away, but there's also the aspect of Skellefteå won the SHL championship. They want to repeat as champions, and he's going to be playing with a fellow Red Wings prospect, an incredibly bright one in Axel Sandin Pellikka. So the comfort level is there for him, but the Red Wings wanted him here, definitely.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this too at the NHL draft this year, where I was kind of in the mindset of taking the big swing for the fences with Cole Iserman. And when they took Brandon Niggard, the thought process on him going into the draft by many scouts was that he was one of the more NHL ready players coming into this draft. I'm a huge fan. He's my new prospect crush after this preseason. It just, this guy, he's got a shot like no other, and he's already got that physical big frame at 205 pounds. I think this guy's an exciting part of the future. ASP might get jealous because now this is my new prospect crush, as last year Axel Sandin Pellico was, but now I'm on the MBN, and I love that my two favorite Red Wing prospects are all 3-letter names. But as far as Brandon Niggard, talk to me what you think about his timeline is going to be to the NHL. I mean, how are we a year, 2 years away from seeing him in this Red Wings lineup?
I think it's 2 or 3 years, realistically speaking, because he's going to need at least half a season to a season in North America to be able to fully adjust to the NHL game here. I think that it's very important for him to get that seasoning on the. He said to the media that he played on a narrow rink, but he's going back to that wide rink where you can loop back, play this soccer style game where you you look for the perfect shot. You don't just come up the ice and shoot the damn puck at the net because you're not going to get another chance. And you can see this in some of these Sandin Pellico highlights again that are posted on Twitter by people like Ice Hockey Gifts and Red Wings prospects. That the Swedish game is more indirect. And that doesn't mean that it's not physical. That doesn't mean that it's not challenging. That doesn't mean that it's not exciting. And it doesn't mean that it's not going to be a place where Brandon Niggard and Sandin Pellico aren't going to thrive playing against men who put dinner on the table by checking the snot out of guys like them. It just means that it's going to be a little more of an indirect path because it's a different game over there, and it's a like I said, it's more of a soccer style game, and the NHL is a little more north-south, up and down. But at the same time, I think it would have been 2 to 3 years anyway. I think that realistically speaking, he turned 19 on the night that the Wings played Toronto on Saturday. He's been 19 for 2 days now, and let him play. Again, this is one of those things where, it's a little frustrating that he's not going to be in North America. He's not going to be in Grand Rapids. It's a little frustrating that he's not going to be a step away from the NHL, that he has to play with Skellefteå until their playoff run ends, which is just the way that the agreement works between the NHL and the SHL. But we're going to see a lot of highlights of him. We're going to be very jealous of the SHL fans that get to see him this upcoming season. And I guess the thing that we have to remember is that the players' wishes have to be taken into account as well. And ultimately, if the kid was not, as a 19-year-old is saying, I just want to play with the SHL team for a year, you have to kind of understand that.
Couple of things to get there too. Yeah, I was very encouraged there by Michael Brandon-Niggard, especially watching that Ottawa game where he was just a force to be reckoned with on that power play at the end of the first period, where he was just he's a bull in a china shop. Is how I've always described.
Yes, he is.
I think he's going to be a very big part of this team's future and a big part of the organization. 5-10 years down the road. I'm a big fan. You also brought up a good point too. Red Wings prospects. That is a great Twitter follow. That is one of my favorites. You get a lot of good information there. Now you talked about getting the snot beat out of you, which makes me want to transition to our good friend Nate Danielson after he in that Toronto game where I said to you before, I think he had his welcome to the NHL moment, courtesy of Steven Lorenz, where he absolutely got pummeled on Toronto's first goal. What are your takeaways from that? I mean, did that really just kind of say to you, like, maybe this kid's still not ready or physical enough in this game. And I'm also still of the benefit that I think Danielson needs at least the majority of the season in the AHL.
I think that it definitely showed, number one, that Steven Lorentz was trying to get an NHL contract, which he did.
Yep.
Today. He and Max Pacioretty got signed by the Maple Leafs to NHL contracts. And yes, it was also a moment where you've got this skinny kid who's not quite built for professional hockey yet, but is just so unbelievably talented and confident in himself that he needs to be playing professional hockey. That I had outgrown the WHL after that tremendous half season with the Portland Winterhawks. Ultimately, yes, he got his ass handed to him, and he needed to get his ass handed to him because sometimes when you are a player that's coming up and you're very confident in yourself, which is, again, I said the last time we recorded this, it's a good thing. These guys are like surgeons or jet pilots. You want them to be confident in themselves. You want them to be borderline cocky, but sometimes you just have to laugh. I mean, when they're young guys and they really get that moment where it's like, hello, this is what it's really like. And if you think that you can give 99% or 98%, you're going to get the shit kicked out of you. And it's kind of funny in the end. You have to laugh because it was a funny moment. And, thank God that it was in a moment where there weren't any points on the table. But at the same time, thank God that it happened then and there. We all got to see it. We all got to laugh. And then then you go and you wish him the best and you hope that he takes that moment and go, whoa, this is real. This is, this is serious. And that he gets a little stronger. He gets a little more aware on the ice. And in a moment like that where you've got the puck on the sideboards and somebody's coming to forecheck the snot out of you, that he's a little more aware next time.
Yeah, it was it was kind of crazy to see, and it's always good for these young players to have those kind of moments. Here it is. This is what it is.
Yeah.
I do want to shift gears really quick and talk about the goaltending situation. Last year to me was not ideal how everything played out, starting with Ville Husso's injury issues, James Reimer's inconsistency. Alex Lyon, he kept it together at times, but we saw down the stretch why he was a 31-year-old journeyman or 30-year-old journeyman backup goaltender for the majority of his career. I believe he'd never started him over like 12 or 13 games in a season.
Yeah. And he got worn down.
Yes, and he was definitely worn down. I'm curious. I know we brought in Cam Talbot. We'll get to the Jack Campbell situation in a minute, but what do you think the Red Wings plan is going forward? Is it a 1A, 1B tandem with Husso Talbot? Where does Alex Lyon fit in? Actually, we'll just get to it right now. The Jack Campbell situation entering the player assistance program, and then we saw Carter Gielander is now going to be in Grand Rapids with Kosa, but how do you see
and
this?
They signed Malcolm Subban to a pro tryout this morning so that they have a backup for Kosa in Grand Rapids. That's why we have you moving fast and furious. So
yeah.
But the long story long here as well is that I think that it would be ideal to have a 2-goalie system, but Coach Lalonde made some really interesting comments. I recommend that if you guys can go over to YouTube and watch the clip of Lalonde and DeBrincat speaking after practice today. Coach Lalonde said that the Red Wings have gotten a lot more practice with practicing this 3-goalie system, that they understand how to get the guys the right reps. They understand how to share the net better. Maybe they do want a 2-goalie system, but if they're going to go with 3 goalies, they think that they've gotten the science of it down to something that's repeatable and something that's going to keep everybody sharp. And that's what you want to hear if they're going to use this, the 3-headed goalie monster, as I call it. It's not ideal. it's never ideal. You want one goalie in one net, and you want another goalie in the other net. Is it entirely possible that there might be a trade down the line if Talbot and Husso and Lyon all stay healthy? Definitely. But right now it is what it is, and the Red Wings feel a lot more confident with it this year than they did last year, which is good to hear. And Husso is healthy. Husso was in the net by himself today. I think he might get the start on Thursday. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, to me, I think Husso is an X factor for me for this season. Just because the expectations when he first signed here with the money he signed for, it hasn't really panned out.
No.
Obviously injuries have been a big problem, and I think there was times where we saw confidence was also an issue with him too. What are you expecting out of him this year if he is healthy and ready to, maybe start 35, 40 games?
If he's healthy, it's going to be a return to normal for him, hopefully. If not a return to somewhat dominant play, because he's got that great skill set. He's a very, very principled butterfly goaltender. I like the way that he handles rebounds when he's on. And we definitely saw in the preseason the first game against Chicago when he was off, he gave up a couple of goals that were, very simple stops if you got more flow to your game. But by the time he played in his the second pair of games for him, he really settled down. He was gobbling up pucks. Against Ottawa, he was really fantastic in terms of sealing off rebounds and just looking comfortable in his own skin. And he hasn't been comfortable in his own skin for over a year now, with those injuries. So I definitely agree with you that he's an X factor, that he is somebody who can come in there and make a difference. Obviously the Red Wings are going to be counting on Talbot to acclimate to the system over the first 5 to 10 games or so. And they're going to be counting on Lyon, obviously, as well, to sort of to be that valuable number 3. I think that now Coach Lalonde says it's going to be a meritocracy, but I think that right now it's kind of Husso Lyon or Husso Talbot and then Lyon. But again, the Wings play a whole boatload of games before the end of November, and we're going to see everybody in the rotation.
Yeah, goalies are a fickle beast. They're probably the most unpredictable position in all of sports. I did like Husso's performance last week. It was very encouraging against the Penguins, where he almost went full Jared Goff, and they 43 out of 44 saves, was it?
Yeah, that was exactly what it was. It was tremendous.
Yeah,
preseason, but still really good.
Oh, no, I mean, Pittsburgh had Malkin and Crosby out there on the ice, so that did it for me. So I wish him all the best. I really hope something can help him out here because, he's in the last year of his contract now, and I think the plan. I gotta assume the plan next year is to start easing Kosa into a role, or at least get him some big NHL experience.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a situation this year? And it would have to be a pretty dire situation. But is there a situation this year where we see Kosa maybe getting some late game call-ups and maybe getting a few starts here for the end of the season?
If they're back to the 2 goalie system and they need an injury replacement, Kosa is the first guy to be called up. I don't think they sign Subban to an NHL contract. I think that they go with Kosa, and I think that they're going to be confident in him because he just took such a big step last year from being a somewhat inconsistent goaltender who had all the fundamentals of the butterfly game down, but had holes. Which is it happens when you're a young goaltender and you're 6'6" and you're dropping to your knees. You've got these holes over your shoulders, and he's learned to and you've got the hole in the 5 hole, and he's learned to seal them up. He's learned to become a lot more consistent and relaxed in his game, confident. They call him Doc down there in Grand Rapids, and I think that Dr. Kosa might be the prescription that the Red Wings need at some point this season.
Yeah, I'm really excited for his future, and we haven't even gotten into Trey Augustine yet. But that'll be for another show because he's
Yeah.
someone else who's starring at my alma mater, Michigan State, and man, he looks like he could be a special one too. So,
Yeah.
Iserman, and we talk about with these prospects and all these things. With Iserman has told us over and over that he's playing the long game, and
Yes, he is.
I don't think he cares about fans overreacting to the Iser plan or the names that they come up for and this not working, youth movement, whatever. But I think in the end, I think. People are going to be very happy with the outcome of how this plays because he's building this team for sustained success, something that he was part of and something that he knows about from his playing days in the late 80s and all the way to the 90s and up into the 2000s. He knows this. He knows how it works better than any of us fans.
Yeah.
So I'm still good with I'm good with the patience plan as long as it lands to long-term success in the long run. So that's all we have time for today, George. And man, I again love having you on, dude. And I'd like to announce that George is going to be a more of a regular participant on this show. We're very excited about that. And George is
that's the plan.
George is one of a kind, man. He's my OG. He's my favorite Red Wings blogger. I've been following him for ever since I started on Twitter, and he's always been helpful to me. With information, updates. His training camp updates are the best. I know everyone follows him on Red Wings social media, so he's top notch. I'm really excited about this, George. It's an honor to have you. But
I'm very grateful for the opportunity. I thank you very much.
Yep, we're very excited. So, all right, well, that's it for this week, and we're going to be back on Thursday, hopefully with George, and we're going to get off of that opening night, the opening night win against the Penguins, hopefully, right? I mean,
sounds like a plan.
It's exciting, man. I did my fantasy hockey draft last night, and I'm ready to go. I only got Lucas Raymond, but that was probably the one I did want. But yeah, we'll see you again Thursday night, and let's go Red Wings. I'm really excited for the season to kick off, and we're looking to do some good things here on the Flying Octopus. So we'll see you then.
Thanks for listening to the Flying Octopus podcast. Follow us on YouTube at the Flying Octopus channel and Twitter at Flying Octopod.